Hey guys, I'm Manoel, and I've been asked by Tony to talk about my experiences as a black boy um, in and around Bath. More background or more context to my journey. Um, I started at St Mark's School in 2014, and I was there till 2016, where I then moved on to St Brendan's College in Brislington for 2 years to pursue my A levels, and I finished there from 2018, where I then stayed on for an extra year to teach in the graphics design department. And yeah, that taught me a lot about teaching and just the process and the importance of teachers. I mean, I already had an understanding of that, but it gave me a different insight to it. But just back to St. Mark's and my experience here as a black student or just a black person has been really interesting. I first came to Bath in 2014. Being 14 at the time, it was interesting trying to adjust to a predominantly white surrounding area. And at the time, Bath was nowhere near as diverse as it is at the moment. So it took quite a lot of getting used to constantly being in spaces where I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb, and I was the unusual one, and I was the red hat in the midst of in the midst of greens. It it was initially quite challenging, but gradually I started getting more acclimated to the surroundings and just used to that feeling, and especially being the second black kid in my year group, it was especially difficult, especially while being a new student, to really connect with individuals. It didn't really help that I was super introverted, socially wasn't very involved. But over the years, I began to notice, and the more comfortable I got with people and found friends and got a friendship group, started realizing, especially more with my year group than any of the other year groups I interacted with. I guess it was my year group and lower. There was a misdirection in terms of the way they thought, as far as jokes and what at the time was banter and just like joking around with friends. There was the misinformation of how wrong it was to make certain jokes, and to direct certain to paint certain ideologies as jokes, with regards to race and things you should say, and making fun of people's backgrounds. I think I feel like it could have played a huge role. I think it did play a huge role in my experience of depression. I think that came from a combination of so many different things, but I think that was one of the biggest parts, is just feeling like a complete outsider in every scenario that you were in. And it's, to some degree, it's understandable being in a predominantly white surrounding, but I feel like it was accentuated by the fact that I had these different experiences, from people making jokes to being in scenarios, like one specific scenario being in English class and reading Of Mice and Men. That, like everyone knows, there's certain parts of the book that is written and they use racial slurs like the N-word. And me being a black young man, I wasn't comfortable with non-black people saying that. If anything, I wasn't particularly comfortable with the way it was used in the book, but I do understand it is a book. But the use of it, I had a problem with non-black people using it, especially because it became a butt of jokes and certain comments of people likening either one of us to characters in the book. It was fairly frustrating, and Marcelo, being one of the other only black kids in the school, he a lot of times felt really uncomfortable while it was being read, to the point where he had to leave. And the problem is people don't know the reality of that, and how it feels to be so for a word to affect you so much like that. And a lot of people I know, they say it's just a word, it's this, it happened years ago, or it shouldn't really affect you. But you don't know until you experience that. And I think in terms of just moving forward, I think it could be important that in the next wave of schools and like new systems, that they start addressing things like that. Because I don't think it would have been a far-fetched to have chosen not to have that word read, because it's not like it takes away from the story that has been told. We all understand that it's there. We all had books and we were reading it, and so we know what that was. But taking a stand saying that we wouldn't read that I think is important. I think also some more effort should have been put into educating the class on why that's the case. Why aren't we going to read this? And the importance of paying attention to these racial slurs, and how it could really affect people. And I know it's harder for young people to grasp, because especially at that age, the maturity levels are on average aren't very high. But it really plays a huge role in life moving forward from there, because once you start seeing those hints of systems that kind of don't let you know that you are being seen, you're being heard, you're being cared for, or being valued, it starts a downward spiral. And for me, one of the biggest things that really helped me out of that was my faith, as well as just being having been brought up in a family that is very resilient, and very aware of all the forces that might be against you, and despite that, working hard, and putting in that extra bit of work to make sure that you're standing out, despite your surroundings. It really helped me get past a lot of those things, and apply myself to other areas, and not let my mind sit on those things too long. Yeah, a lot of these things, I feel like I could go on and on, but there's so many instances like that it felt like we were constantly being set apart, or being reminded that we are not the same. And I think that's one huge part that will create a problem, that has created a problem in past, whether it be feeling like you're being mistreated, or you're being treated differently from the other students, whether it be in an altercation. And this is not me myself, this is watching other people's experiences of that, or just feeling like the way certain teachers will react to you doing something is completely different. And I feel like even in those instances where that wasn't the case, I think that's where the importance of conversation comes in. The importance of having those conversations with their students about why that is. It's like, if you're going to punish someone, you need to explain to them. You need to sit them down and really explain to them why that is, especially in such a sensitive setting. Because it could be the difference between someone feeling valued or not. And taking that time out to explain it might be the subconscious level of value that a student needs to feel like you're really looking at their best interest, and you are really taking time out to look out for them. And I feel like I should have mentioned this prior, but nowadays I feel like I'm a lot more involved in the conversation about race than I was, especially since the photo of me on the plinth in Bristol went viral and everything. I've kind of like had to start having those conversations in more public forums. If not, I've been more comfortable having these in private, these discussions with people and individuals, just because I just feel those are the best forums, because no one feels attacked, no one feels like they've got a spotlight on them, but rather people feel like they can be vulnerable, especially when you're able to do that in front of them. Yeah, and I hope I've been able to give some form of insight to that, and hopefully more conversations off the back of this will help give more insight to that. But yeah, I do appreciate that you guys are taking the time out to address these things and start having these conversations, these difficult conversations, and trying to create a system that works better and more efficiently for young people of all races and all backgrounds. Um, yeah, I look forward to having this conversation with you guys. And I just also want to put in that I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing, because we do know the importance of the education system and sphere and organizations that are in our local area, and the big part they play in the larger world. And I know we could never have a perfect system, but I think the most important thing is just working towards having an effective, a fair, and just system, and constantly trying to be better is the goal. So, yes, I commend you guys and hope to be with you soon.